Part 122. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1211. The Sea of 10,000 Stars is an extremely special place in the realm of gods and demons in the secret realm of spiritual desolation. The reason why this place is special is because the entire Sea of 10,000 Stars is a huge space crack similar to that above the Sin Demon City. The area of the Sea of 10,000 Stars is more than 1,000,000 times larger than the space rift above the Sin Devil City. According to legend, when the two masters fought against each other, the terrifying power that shattered the void poured out here, and tens of thousands of stars were shattered here, thus creating the Sea of 10,000 Stars. Because there are some treasure-level metals left after the stars were shattered in the Sea of 10,000 Stars, this place has become the favorite place for many powerful gods and those dedicated treasure hunters in the god and demon realm who want to refine their natal artifacts. And because of the violent space storm in the Sea of 10,000 Stars, those who can enter the Sea of 10,000 Stars are basically those with cultivation levels above that of a god. A strong demigod cannot protect himself if he enters, and may be ravaged in the blink of an eye. The space storm in the Sea of Stars blew away without a trace. The appearance of the Xuanhuan temple in the Sea of 10,000 Stars was discovered by those who were searching for treasures in the Sea of 10,000 Stars. This news also spread throughout the entire spiritual wilderness and the universe in the shortest time. In just one day, countless powerful people swarmed from all directions. Come and gather in the Sea of 10,000 Stars. All kinds of treasure hunters who were originally in the Sea of 10,000 Stars swarmed towards the Xuanhuan temple. The temptation of the Dao artifact, no one can resist. After receiving the news, Xiaopingyan rode the powerful Pegasus day and night. 2 days later, he finally returned to the secret realm of the spiritual desolation. When Xiaopingyan stepped out of the space passage, he appeared in the sky above the Sea of 10,000 Stars in the god and demon realm. What a Sea of 10,000 Stars! Xiaopingyan, who was standing above the Sea of 10,000 Stars, couldn't help but exclaimed when he saw the Sea of 10,000 Stars at his feet. From his height, the entrance to the Sea of 10,000 Stars looked like it was appearing in the void. There is a circular volcanic crater emitting red light. This crater is flashing with lightning and filled with fog. Its radius exceeds 20,000 kilometers. This is the narrowest place in the Sea of 10,000 Stars. Entering this entrance, there is a huge and difficult to reach crater. Imaginary space rift. When Xiaopingyan was looking at the entrance to the Sea of 10,000 Stars, he could see many powerful divine beings flying into the Sea of 10,000 Stars like moths to the flame. Some of those powerful divine beings they tore through the void and appeared near the Sea of 10,000 Stars, and then plunged into the Sea of 10,000 Stars. Others came from afar on various flying boats. When those flying boats arrived near the Sea of 10,000 Stars, the powerful gods got off the flying boats and threw themselves into the Sea of 10,000 Stars. Everyone had the same goal, which was to try their luck in the Sea of 10,000 Stars. Less than a minute after Xiaopingyan arrived here, he had already seen more than 20 powerful gods entering the Sea of 10,000 Stars. The ground within tens of thousands of kilometers around the Sea of 10,000 Stars was desolate, with not a single blade of grass to be seen. Roots are full of crisscrossing terrifying ravines and the terrain formed by the cooling and solidification of lava. Xiaopingyan can also feel the aura left by the powerful gods after the battle from the ravines and lava on the ground. Not long ago, maybe 2 days ago, a fierce battle broke out between the gods near the entrance to the Sea of 10,000 Stars. This made his heart tremble slightly. Suddenly feeling a familiar aura, Xiaopingyan turned his head and saw MaleProtagonist in a black dress appearing in the void like a proud and gorgeous black phoenix tens of thousands of meters away, looking affectionate. Looking here nervously. Xiaopingyan came to MaleProtagonist in just one step, facing each other on all sides, each with 1,000 words to say. After almost 5 years of absence, MaleProtagonist is still as beautiful as before, and in terms of cultivation level, MaleProtagonist is better than when he left that day. ignited 2 more rays of divine flames. This cultivation speed can be regarded as super speed for a god-level expert. It's great to see you. I thought it would be difficult to see you in the future, Xiaopingan said to Maluo. I knew you would definitely come. How could I not be by your side at this time? Maluo smiled slightly, looked at Xiaopingan again, and sighed softly. I was left behind by you again. Gee, I can't see through your cultivation at all this time. The 46th ray of divine flame has just been lit. Can you already condense the Xianming level of Godhead? Xiaopingan nodded and asked, did a divine battle break out at the entrance to the Sea of 10,000 Stars? Yes, just yesterday, the divine battle at the entrance to the Sea of 10,000 Stars lasted less than 10 minutes, and outsiders could not tell the winner, but according to people who saw the battle between gods in the distance at that time, it seemed that there were gods ambushing the entrance to the Sea of 10,000 Stars, and then a huge gold brick as big as a city suddenly fell from the sky, hit near the entrance, and was annihilated. A war between gods broke out in an area with a radius of thousands of kilometers. As soon as the Xuanhuan temple appeared, the gods couldn't help but fight for it. This time when we go in, we must be prepared to fight with the gods. By the way, I almost forgot. Yes, you have already killed a god. Gold bricks the size of a city? Xiaopingan suddenly remembered the god named Fan Sangguang he saw last time. Could it be him? The opponent who can make Fan Sangguang take action must be a god under the control of the demon god. Waiting here, he must be setting up an ambush, waiting for him to appear. Xiaopingan looked at the entrance to the Sea of 10,000 Stars in front of him. The innate wisdom emperor's divine light deep in his eyes quickly turned, and the expression on Xiaopingan's face became solemn. What's wrong? Finding Xiaopingan's expression solemn, Maluo. Maluo, promise me something, Xiaopingan suddenly said to Maluo. What's the matter? Maluo asked. Don't enter the Sea of 10,000 Stars this time. Maluo frowned slightly. Are you afraid that I am in danger? Xiaopingan nodded. Although my current strength is not as good as yours, I can still fight against ordinary gods. If I am in danger if I enter the Sea of 10,000 Stars, wouldn't it be a dead end for anyone else who enters? It's different this time. Xiaopingan shook his head and said in a deep voice, I have already made calculations. The demon lord's side will have many arrangements and ambushes against me in the Sea of 10,000 Stars this time. If I go in this time, I will escape death. The chance that I can come out may be less than 10%. If you and I go in, we will definitely face high-level gods instead of ordinary gods. You will definitely not be spared. Maluo's face changed when she heard what Xiaopingan said. She knew Xiaopingan's character and would never deliberately scare her with such things. She couldn't help but grabbed Xiaopingan's hand. Then don't go, we won't fight over the Chaos Xuanhuan lock in the Xuanhuan temple, it's no big deal, whoever has the ability to take it away has nothing to do with us. Xiaopingan shook his head gently but firmly, I have to go. This is my mission. If I can succeed this time, the history of the God realm will be rewritten. Even if there is only 1% chance, I will definitely gotta go. Mission. Xiaopingan gently touched Maluo's face. Yes, this is what I have realized when destroying those dark towers over the years. After seeing too many disasters caused by the dominant demon god, I finally know that I am who. Why did I come here? I also know why the demon lord has regarded me as his enemy from the beginning and has been trying every means to hunt and destroy me. All the answers are in the Xuanhuan temple, so I must go. You. Maluo was about to say something, but Xiaopingan's hand had already touched her ear. Maluo felt nothing, but her body softened, her eyes closed, and she leaned on Xiaopingan's shoulder. Fell asleep directly. Xiaopingan gently hugged Maluo and kissed her cheek. Don't blame me. I know that if I don't let you go, you will definitely follow me after I go in. You want to live and die with me, but I don't want to you go through fire and water for me. This battle is mine, I must face it." After saying this, Xiaopingyan looked at the void, stretched out his hand to draw a complex formation in the void, and the formation was it shrouded Mi Luo's body, and then the Pegasus also appeared in the formation talisman. With just a flash of light, the Pegasus disappeared at the same time as Mi Luo. With the power of Pegasus, Xiaopingyan sent Bai Luo to a special secret realm that he had found before. It was an absolutely safe place. He had made some arrangements so that Bai Luo could sleep there for a while. Wake up and stagger the time when Yuanji Temple appears. By then, you will either have already come out of Yuanji Temple, or, you will never come out. After sending Mi Luo away, Xiaopingyan no longer had any scruples. He just flashed and flew into the entrance of the Sea of 10,000 Stars and entered the Sea of 10,000 Stars. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1212. There is an endless void in the Sea of 10,000 Stars, and the entire space is filled with misty grey fog. In the grey fog, you can also see various fragments like large meteorite belts floating in it, and dark red and black space storms. Entangled together, twisting strangely in the void, the space vortices leading to unknown directions are looming in the space storm, and they are still changing their directions at any time. Such a place is slightly weaker for strength. For people, entering it is basically equivalent to committing suicide. Xiaopingyan, who entered the Sea of 10,000 Stars, didn't even look for it. He immediately felt an extremely powerful aura coming from the 3 o'clock direction in front of him on his right. That breath was like darkness in the space crack where the Sea of 10,000 Stars was located. Like the volcano erupting in it, it is extremely strong, allowing the strong person who enters it to quickly lock in that direction. Is that where the Yuanji Temple is? Xiaopingyan stared at that direction and muttered to himself. The next second, his whole body turned into a grey mist with a bang, and then the grey mist separated in the blink of an eye. Hundreds of puffs of smoke came out, and each puff of smoke turned into a Xiaopingyan. It spread out in the air and flew towards the direction of the breath like a meteor that cut through the sky, and entered in the blink of an eye. In a state of complete concealment, it is completely invisible to the naked eye and cannot be perceived by spiritual thoughts. Xiaopingyan understands that the real test begins now. The demon lord will never allow himself to enter Yuanji Temple easily. From now on, the road to Yuanji Temple will be full of thorns and dangers for him. In this Sea of 10,000 Stars, the only condition that is favorable to me is that the Sea of 10,000 Stars is a huge space crack that is so vast that it is unimaginably vast. It is impossible for the dominant demon god to allow all the gods on that side to come down without limit, and it is also impossible blocking off the entire space of the Sea of 10,000 Stars leaves a slight chance for him to enter the Yuanji Temple. However, the closer he gets to the Yuanji Temple, the greater the risk that the door of opportunity will be closed, because since he is the dominant demon god, he will definitely place the strongest power prepared for himself closest to the Yuanji Temple. Half a day later, somewhere in the Sea of 10,000 Stars, a hand as big as a mountain stretched out from the void of the Sea of 10,000 Stars, and slammed into a piece of grey fog. Before the big hand could catch the fog, a bright sword light more than 10,000 meters long slashed through the fog. He came out, as if cutting the space in half, and slashed towards the big hand, but the big hand just grabbed it, and the light of the 10,000-meter long sword was broken into pieces by the 5 fingers of the big hand, and a space storm rolled up. The grey mist dispersed, revealing Xiaopingyan's figure. Xiaopingyan, remember my name, God of Fear. This is the area where I am stationed. If you hit my hand today, you must die. The rumbling voice vibrated in the void, and the figure behind the big hand it also emerged from the void. It was the body of a god with a height of more than hundreds of kilometers. The entire body was wrapped in blue electric light. Huge horns grew on its head, and its eyes emitted terrifying blood-red electric light. And this body exudes the terrifying aura of the Yuanji level godhead. Without saying a word, Xiaopingyan waved his hand, and thunder struck down on the body of the god of fear. Xiaopingan himself turned around and evacuated quickly in the opposite direction. The god of fear roared angrily, and just opened his bloody mouth, and a terrifying black hole appeared in his mouth. Within the black hole, there were layers of hell scenes. Countless people were struggling and wailing in the hell. In just an instant, the bloody giant mouth became the center of gravity of this space. Everything in the surrounding void involuntarily slid in towards his huge mouth, including Xiaopingan, who was flying away quickly. At the same time, a black flame came from his mouth. It spurted out and swept through the entire void within a radius of thousands of miles. Everything that slipped towards his mouth was instantly annihilated under the black flames. Xiaopingan's figure persisted a little longer, and just when he was about to slide into the mouth of the god of fear, he melted and dissipated in the black flames, and then, the burning white light of a detonated void divine thunder, it exploded directly in the mouth of the god of fear, surrounding the god of fear's head. Except for the huge body of the god of fear, the white light of the void divine thunder almost annihilated everything in the surrounding void for thousands of kilometers. Roar! The god of fear roared. Even if this void divine thunder exploded in his mouth, it would not hurt him at all, but the insult of this void divine thunder was very strong. The god of fear grabbed the void with his big hand. When he opened his hand, there was a paper man in his hand that looked like Xiaopingan. There was also a hair of Xiaopingan on the paper man. The spell on the paper man and the hair dissipated, the energy was exhausted, and it turned into ashes and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Just 5 hours later, in another void, a giant hand shaped like an octopus with a divine body swept through the void like a wheel. The entire void of the Sea of 10,000 Stars was cut into countless pieces by the giant hand like a blade. Among the chaotic fragments, Xiaopingan's figure was leaping and bouncing among the fragments. With his hands out, countless flames fell from the sky and fell on the body of the octopus-like god. A minute later, Xiaopingan's body turned into light and disappeared again, and a void divine thunder exploded. Another paper man and a piece of hair turned into ashes and disappeared in the void. Just over 2 hours later, another Xiaopingan dissipated in the endless blood sea formation. For Xiaopingan, the Sea of 10,000 Stars at this moment is full of traps and murderous intentions, just like a terrifying battlefield. Those gods who intervene to intercept and kill him are the ones who have the lowest concentration of the Supreme Emperor's godhead. Xiaopingan even has his own misunderstandings. The illusion of entering the battlefield of the divine realm. In order to stop and kill Xiaopingan, the demon lord has spared no effort. Xiaopingan continues to fall one after another in the Sea of 10,000 Stars, and every time Xiaopingan falls, Xiaopingan is one step closer to the Yuanji temple, and the closer to the Yuanji temple, the more and more powerful the gods, murderous intentions and traps stand in front of Xiaopingan. It is also becoming more and more terrifying. This is the toughest collision in the universe. In addition to a contest of strength, the two sides in the collision are more importantly a contest of will and determination. 5 days later, almost all of Xiaopingan's clones were lost, and the Yuanji temple finally appeared in Xiaopingan's sight. To be more precise, what appears in the Sea of 10,000 Stars is just a portal of the Yuanji temple. A portal 10,000 meters high stands in the void of the Sea of 10,000 Stars. Everything around the portal seems to be solidified, even the space storm. They were all still, the gray mist stopped fluttering, like a gray curtain, fixed in the void. Xiaopingan even saw streaks of light that were still and solidified around the portal. Everything is like locked. On the portal of the Yuanji temple, there are only 4 domineering words, forbidden by the spirits. The silent majesty of the great Dao artifact rules everything. The gods must bow their heads at this point. There is nothing dangerous in the void outside the Yuanji temple, but Xiaopingan knows that this is the most dangerous place. If the demon god wants to prevent himself from entering the Yuanji temple, this is the last chance. Xiaopingan saw 2 powerful men who were later gods. They had an unimpeded journey, spanning a distance of more than 20,000 miles, and rushed directly to the portal of Yuanji Temple and entered the portal. As Xiaoping'an thought, the last 3 remaining clones rushed towards the Yuanji Temple from 3 directions. And just when the 3 clones entered the Yuanji Temple, which was still more than 12,000 miles away, 3 dark portals suddenly appeared in the void on the flight paths of Xiaoping'an's 3 clones. The 3 clones suddenly submerged into the 3 portals, like mud cows entering the sea, disappearing without a trace. Even the brilliance of the void divine thunder seemed to be swallowed up. The next second, a huge metal ring appeared behind the 3 portals. The metal ring enveloped the outermost void of the entire Yuanji Temple. After the metal ring appeared, it was originally about 20,000 miles away from Xiaoping'an. The distant Yuanji Temple suddenly became extremely far away, and the distance from Xiaoping'an was lengthened by almost 10 times. And those 3 portals turned into 9, spreading in all directions of Yuanji Temple. The position of the Yuanji Temple has not changed. It is the ring that expands the void around the Yuanji Temple. Just behind the ring, countless shadowy figures of huge gods appeared in the void, forming a large formation and surrounding the entire Yuanji Temple. Xiaoping'an, I know you are here. This 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons formation can block all the gods and clones whose strength is above the Shushan godhead outside the Yuanji Temple. You can't get in. The voice of the dominant demon resounded in the void. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1213. The 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons formation was like a heavy iron mountain. The formation was slowly rotating, surrounding the Yuanji Temple. Xiaoping'an's figure finally walked out of the void and faced everything. Xiaoping'an's face was calm, but his eyes were determined, and he had an indomitable momentum. I didn't expect you to use such a large array for me, but today, I will definitely enter the Yuanji Temple. Seeing Xiaoping'an appear, the purple-red demon flames of the 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons array soared into the sky, like a flaming mountain. The figures of countless gods under the command of the demon god loomed in the array, looking at Xiaoping'an ferociously. The terrifying pressure suddenly came from all directions. Xiaoping'an, I will give you one last chance. The voice of the dominant demon god roared in the sky. In the wild space storm outside the 9 netherworld 10,000 demons formation, the outline of the face of the dominant demon god emerged from the sky. He emerged from the space storm and looked down at Xiaoping'an. As long as you surrender to me, you will not die today, and you can become an immortal existence. The universe, all realms, and billions of racial creatures are all your slaves. The gods under your command also respect you. When the dominant demon god was speaking, the space channels behind Xiaoping'an opened one by one. The various figures of the gods that had previously surrounded Xiaoping'an began to appear in the void behind Xiaoping'an. The ferocious faces, one by one, a mountain-like figure roared. In the void, the net of the gods has been completely unfolded. The killing thoughts and evil spirits of the gods are densely intertwined, making the entire void of the sea of 10,000 stars resemble ripples, creating circles of space ripples. Xiaoping'an smiled slightly, shook his head, and looked at the huge face of the dominant demon god with a look that was both unruly and disdainful. I have gone through countless hardships and countless battles to come here, not to surrender to you, but to trample you under my feet. Why? The dominant demon roared angrily. Why, you ask me why, ha 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 ha. Xiaoping'an's manic laughter shot up into the sky, and a sacred light wheel like the scorching sun appeared in the back of his head instantly. Solemn and solemn, with eyes as pure and brilliant as the eternal starry sky, his voice shook the entire sea of stars. In order for all the creatures in the universe to no longer be squeezed by your fear and blood and become your humble slaves, for everyone in this world people can live without shame under the stars, stand on the earth, and live out the sanctity and dignity of life. This is the reason, this is my way, fight. At the last two words, Xiaopingan roared angrily. In the roar, the whole person transformed into a giant hundreds of thousands of meters tall with the roar. That body, like the bodies of the gods that surrounded him, was full of terrifying majesty that destroyed the heaven and earth. 6 huge emanations, wings of light with golden flames, appeared behind him. On the shoulders of the huge body, 2 more heads and 6 arms grew. Of the 2 newly grown heads, one head took the shape of King Peng's bird head. On the other head, there is the King Ming's Dharma image with glaring eyes and thunder flashing in his eyes. The 6 arms that grew out of his body also hold axes, swords, guns, shields and other artifacts, or hold mysterious instructions. The originally huge divine prison tower was now held in Xiaopingan's hand like a black steel whip. The battle broke out instantly, and the gods who appeared in the void behind Xiaopingan immediately rushed towards Xiaopingan. Roar! Mora rushed to the front and roared. His mountainous figure rushed towards Xiaopingan and waved the dark hammer artifact in his hand, directly hitting Xiaopingan. The entire void was shattering. The other gods also launched an attack on Xiaopingan. Xiaopingan roared and raised the divine prison tower in his hand. At this moment, the divine prison giant tower suddenly changed from black to gold. A mighty aura emanated from the divine prison giant tower, and millions of people under this breath. The chaotic space storm in Li was extinguished in an instant like a candle. Moridu's forward figure suddenly seemed to be stuck in a quagmire. He was struggling and became extremely slow. Xiaopingan was thousands of miles away. The flow of time within, 4 other gods, suddenly becomes extremely long and stagnant. The aura that appeared on the giant tower caused the faces of all the gods under the command of the demon god who rushed towards Xiaopingan to change color instantly. That breath is the great Tao, divine, weapon. Moridu had a look of fear on his face and wailed. Xiaopingan has used the divine prison giant tower several times before, but he always used it as an ordinary artifact. He has never allowed the divine prison giant tower to show its true power as a great avenue artifact, and Xiaopingan had previously used it because of his realm. The reason is that it is impossible to fully control the power of the Dao artifact, but at this moment, all this no longer exists. For the first time, the divine prison tower fully demonstrates the dignity and terror of the Dao artifact. Boom! The moment Moridu's divine weapon touched the divine prison tower, it was like a wooden stick hitting a peerless divine weapon. All of them were instantly shattered into ashes. The divine prison tower remained as strong as before, directly bombarding Moridu's panic grid. On the blocking arm. In everyone's eyes, although the divine prison tower hit Moridu's arm, Moridu's entire body, under the bombardment of the avenue artifact, was instantly turned into ashes and shattered like a bubble that had been popped. Was directly annihilated by the Dao artifact and disappeared into the void, with no trace left. The reason why the Great Dao artifact is the Great Dao artifact is because its attack is like a Grand Dao crushing it, which cannot be resisted by ordinary gods. After Xiaopingan killed Moridu with one blow, the attacks from other gods also fell on him. But at this moment, Xiaopingan's entire body surface was like a bottomless void. Ming Wangwujian's body, his power was once again demonstrated. The various attacks against him were actually absorbed and devoured by his body. From the outside, it seemed as if they could not harm him. Just after a fight, the gods under the command of the demon god were shocked and frightened. This is not a god. Many gods may not have such strength. How could a god be so strong? He has not yet become a god, and the secret techniques and realms he has cultivated have not yet reached their peak. He has been injured. The Dao artifact is a weapon that can only be used by the supreme gods. With his current strength, it is impossible to urge him without limit. Use the Dao artifact. Every time he uses the Dao artifact, there will be a huge price. Kill him. The voice of the dominant demon roared in the sky. Amid the roar of the dominant demon god, Xiaopingan's figure was like an arrow of light, with 6 wings of light unfolding behind him. He moved forward indomitably, like a brilliant light piercing the darkness, rushing towards the rotating 9 netherworld demons. Grand formation. Open. Xiaopingan roared, raising the giant divine prison tower in his hand again and blasting towards the 9 nethers and 10,000 demons formation, and the power of the Dao artifact burst out again. Boom. At this moment, blazing light was flashing within tens of thousands of kilometers. Xiaopingan directly blasted through the gate of the 9 nethers and 10,000 demons formation and rushed into the formation. Inside the 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons formation, there was another scene. The space inside the formation was dozens of times larger than it looked from the outside. Blood was rolling in from all directions in the formation like a tsunami. Within the blood, countless creatures are wailing and struggling. As long as this blood is touched, it can even corrode and melt the bodies of the gods. However, the gods under the command of the dominant demon god in the large formation are not affected by the blood. One by one, the figures of the gods were like mountains hidden in the sea of blood. As soon as Xiaopingan rushed into the formation, he launched an attack on Xiaopingan. For a moment, thousands of lights of various colors rushed towards Xiaopingan. Xiaopingan moved the divine prison tower in his hand horizontally, and countless attacks fell on his giant tower. The giant tower shook violently and was not damaged at all, but golden blood overflowed from the corners of Xiaopingan's mouth. The next second, Xiaopingan waved his hand, and 360 void divine thunders were arranged in a strange three-dimensional formation, flying towards the blood that came like a tsunami, and then detonated at the same time, and the entire 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons were destroyed. Within the formation, it was like brilliant fireworks were lit in an instant, hundreds of hot and pale lights exploded in the formation, and the entire 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons formation was trembling. In the light of the void divine thunder, Xiaopingan's figure transformed into light again and rushed forward. His whole body merged with the shockwave of the void divine thunder, just like the eagle flying on the tide, the divine prison in his hand. The giant tower was raised high again, and it was blasted at the 2 oncoming gods. Kill. Boom. The 2 gods were instantly annihilated by the smoothness of the Dao artifact, and after this blow, golden blood began to flow from Xiaopingan's eyes. Countless gods came from all directions with ferocious looks. Xiaopingan waved the Dao artifacts and various weapons in his hands, and fought bloody battles with the gods under the command of the dominating demon god who came from all directions in the sea of blood. Xiaopingan's figure was gradually covered up by countless mountain-like figures. The rolling sea of blood came from all directions, making a thunderous tsunami sound. Amid the wailing of billions of innocent souls, it turned into a big bloody ball with a radius of hundreds of thousands of kilometers was formed, wrapping Xiaopingan and all the bloody gods in the formation. The big blood-red ball rolling in the formation looked like a blood-red devil's eye from a distance, which was particularly ferocious. At this darkest moment, suddenly, a loud and passionate song burst out from the sea of blood. The heaven and earth are righteous, and they are mixed and endowed with manifolds. Below are the rivers and mountains, and above are the sun and stars. For humans, the sun is so vast that it fills the sky. As the song came, the 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons formation was shaking violently. The void in the formation was shattered piece by piece. From the shattered void, golden brilliance and the void in the heaven and earth were released. Haran's righteousness appeared in the void of the 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons array like a flood, rushing towards the blood ball. The breath of the 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons array was instantly chaotic, and more heaven and earth righteousness and energy. In this song, it turned into the sun, moon, stars, rivers, and mountains dotted in the formation, and countless screaming and struggling souls in the sea of blood, and disappeared in this righteousness. A golden brilliance reaches the sky and touches the ground, soaring into the sky from the big bloody ball. With a bang, the big bloody ball is completely shattered. Blast out, defeat the demons, and stand proudly in the formation. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1214. Xiaopingan, who broke out from the sea of blood, had hundreds of wounds all over his body. Some of the blood on his body belonged to him, and some belonged to the gods under the command of the demon god. What is even more terrifying is that at this moment, Xiaopingan, golden blood is constantly flowing out of his nostrils, eyes, and ears. The blood on Xiaopingan's body flows into the void and turns into balls of golden flames. The divine prison in his hands, the giant tower, is even covered with countless flesh and blood that burn to ashes. The wounds on Xiaopingan's body can be repaired by his powerful physique in the blink of an eye, but the blood flowing out of his eyes, ears, mouth, and nose is difficult to suppress. Every time Xiaopingan waves the giant tower of the divine prison in his hand, the blood will flow from it. Surges erupted from his body. The divine falls of the gods killed by Xiaopingan have long since arrived, one after another. However, in the sea of 10,000 stars, especially within the 9 netherworlds and 10,000 demons formation, as soon as the divine falls appeared, they were swept away. He entered the raging space storm around him and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. The imperial road should be King I, Han He Tuming Ting. I can see it at the end of the year, and draw pictures one by one. In Qi Taishi Jian, in Jin Donghubi. In Qinjiang Liangzi, in Han Suwuja. He is the head of General Yan, and he is the head of General Yan. Ji Shi was bleeding. It was Zhang Sui Yang's teeth, Yan Changshan's tongue. The passionate song of the righteous song still resounded in the formation. No matter how fierce the battle was, no matter how the gods roared, it could not cover up the song. And with the appearance of the righteous song, the void above Xiaopingan's head among them, the golden words of the song of righteousness began to appear one by one. The golden words were shining brightly. The golden light blocked the sea of blood sweeping around them thousands of miles away. Those who came within 100 miles of Xiaopingan were blocked. The gods under the control of the demon god were also illuminated by this golden light, and their whole bodies were ignited with golden flames, which made those gods scream and scream, and they did not dare to approach easily. Although he was injured, Xiaopingan became more and more courageous as he fought without any signs of fatigue. Every move contained great power, making the gods who besieged him tremble with fear. Boom! Another Wanyao god turned into bubbles and ashes under the blow of the Dao artifact in Xiaopingan's hand. After this blow, the blood spurting from Xiaopingan's body almost doubled, and Xiaopingan's whole body, they were all immersed in the flames, turned into blood, and the tragedy was earth-shattering. After this blow, before Xiaopingan could retreat, the space around him had been heavily locked by other gods using secret techniques. Hundreds of terrifying divine techniques were blasted directly at him. Xiaopingan avoided half of them. He attacked with divine skills, and used the divine prison tower to block the remaining half of the attack, but there were still hundreds of powerful and terrifying divine skills that fell on him. Among the hundreds of attacks by divine skills, many attacks come from gods above Wanyao. Boom! Thousands of light flames bloomed from Xiaopingan's side, and the entire void was shaking. The blow he suffered this time directly exceeded the maximum limit that Ming Wangwujian's divine body could withstand. Xiaopingan's entire body had already withstood countless blows before, but this time, under such a supersaturated divine skill attack, his body, together with the void formation around him, was shattered inch by inch. Time seems to have stopped at this moment. There was silence at this moment in the 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons formation. At this moment, the divine prison tower was floating quietly in the place where Xiaopingan's body was shattered. Like a gradually extinguishing torch, the brilliance of the divine prison tower was slowly dimming. The radiant words of the Genki song in the sky also fell one by one like shooting stars. Finally killed. Ha ha ha, I'm finally dead. No matter how strong you are, you can't withstand the crushing force of the 9 netherworld 10,000 demons array. The voice of the dominant demon god appeared in the array and laughed wildly. This time, I1. The gods in the 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons array looked at the giant tower of the divine prison that was stained with the blood of many gods. They were all a little distraught. The light of the Deo artifact had not been completely extinguished. No god dared to step forward for fear of the power of divine thoughts. Under the influence, it caused a terrifying blow from the Deo artifact. After being so quiet for a full 2 minutes, when the light on the giant tower of the divine prison completely disappeared, the tower body returned to its pitch black color. A figure with a huge wolf head. Xianming, the beast god, was the closest to the divine prison tower, so he rushed directly to the divine prison tower in a flash, wanting to capture the divine prison tower and offer it to the dominant demon god. And just when the beast god's finger was about to touch the giant tower of the divine prison, the surrounding space suddenly solidified, and a big golden hand suddenly stretched out from the void. Boom, just a punch, the beast god's the wolf's head was immediately smashed to pieces by this punch, and a second giant hand stretched out from the void, punched into the chest of the beast god, grabbed the beast god's heart, crushed it, and then, again 2 big hands burning with golden flames blasted out from the void, inserted into the body of the wolf-headed beast god, directly tore the body of the wolf-headed beast god into pieces, turned into ashes in the air, and killed him directly. The flames of the divine prison tower had been extinguished. At this moment, like the sun in the darkness, it glowed 10 times more brilliantly than before. The huge figure of Xiaopingan with 3 heads and 6 arms walked out of the void again, but this time, the aura revealed by Xiaopingan was no longer the deity just now, but a god. The aura of the god was full of oppression and powerful. And sacred, with the appearance of Xiaopingan's figure, the sacred fires lit by all the gods present became restless. The gods in the 9 netherworlds and 10,000 demons array were all shocked. Xiaopingan had been bombarded and killed, and he had not been promoted to a god. There was no sign of being promoted to a god at the scene. One function is to cut off all spiritual energy between heaven and earth, completely blocking the possibility of someone being promoted to a god in the formation. Under such circumstances, how could Xiaopingan suddenly advance from a god to a god? Unless the power of faith, the transformation of gods. The dominant demon god roared, his voice full of shock, disappointment, and anger. Speaking of which, I would also like to thank you. Without the countless worlds and miserable humans and creatures of various races on the planet who were suppressed, enslaved, and oppressed by your Tower of Darkness, I would not have been able to survive in just a few years. Understand the ultimate mystery of the divine transformation in the stage of deity. Xiaopingan smiled, and the divine prison tower lightly returned to his hand, making a buzzing sound that vibrated all the artifacts in this space. It seemed that the artifacts had spirits, and they screamed with joy. Those worlds and planets, the deeper the creatures and humans suffer from your persecution and oppression, the more they worship me who saved them as a real God, and the more pious and reverential they become about my faith. With the blessings and links of countless people's power of faith, next, I realized the transformation of becoming a god. All of this is thanks to you. At this moment, on the altar of Xiaopingan's secret mandala, the divine flames he lit were bundled together by the sacred light extending from the void, turning into a ball of divine fire. The divine fire, with the blessing of those sacred lights in the void, burned blazingly, and the flames illuminated the entire kingdom of God. And those sacred rays of light extending from the void, behind each ray of light, extend to the worlds or planets in the universe that were once suppressed by the Tower of Darkness. On those planets and worlds, there are countless temples. There are various totems and worships about Xiaopingan in the He Temple. On some planets, they have never seen Xiaopingan, so they imagine Xiaopingan's appearance. In some worlds, they saw the little dots used by Xiaopingan. Looks like, so the totem of worship is a symbol transformed from a small dot. For those planets and people in the world, they firmly believe that the one who saves them must be the greatest and most compassionate God in the universe. Within the faith linked behind those rays of light, there is the mysterious existence of the gods. At this moment, Xiaoping'an already has countless fanatical believers all over the universe. This 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons formation was originally prepared for the gods. Even if you turn into a god now, this formation will crush you into ashes. There is no possibility of you leaving alive. I will sprinkle my blood to bless you. Strengthen you, my gods, my blood will make you braver, more fearless, more powerful, kill him. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1215. Amidst the roar of the dominant demon god, drops of blood exuding dazzling blood-red light fell like heavy rain from the sky above the 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons array, falling on the gods under the command of the dominant demon god in the formation. Was instantly absorbed by those gods. In the blink of an eye, the auras of the gods in the formation soared into the sky like a prairie fire. Each of their huge mountain-like bodies began to expand violently, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Those ferocious faces, the eyes that were shot with blood and lightning, were even more evil, and countless gods overlapped and rushed towards Xiaoping'an again. In the sky within the 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons formation, the evil spirits of countless gods condensed into black flames that floated down from the sky like snowflakes, covering the entire void. The rolling sea of blood roared again, sweeping towards Xiaoping'an. When it comes, the world between heaven and earth is like a purgatory of blood and fire, and the world is horrified. In just an instant, thousands of divine skills were annihilated from all directions, with the goal of killing Xiaoping'an. Come on, this is the real battle of the gods. Xiaoping'an roared, and the whole person rose into the sky, like a brilliant sun rising in the darkness. The whole person soared up, with 6 huge monsters behind him. Peng Wang's light wings spread out, covering 1,000 miles in radius. With a flap, a terrifying space storm appeared in the large array space around him. It spun wildly like a blade, forming a barrier formed by the space storm. Those who were blasting towards him were the divine skills, and the roaring sea of blood were immediately swept away by the spatial storm without a trace. The giant tower of the divine prison emitted thousands of rays of light in his hand. Xiaoping'an waved the giant tower and directly blasted towards the terrifying-looking gods who rushed to the front. Boom! The giant prison tower of the gods blasted on the forward of the gods, and a dazzling light exploded hundreds of thousands of miles in the void. There were more than a dozen terrifying mountain-like figures at the forward of the gods. With one hit, it disappeared like a bubble. The terrifying power of the Dao artifact made the 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons formation tremble and groan, as if it would be torn apart at any time. This blow caused the void in the formation to tremble. Countless cracks appeared, but the voice of the dominant demon resounded through the void, chanting obscure spells. Groups of black mist appeared from the void, quickly repairing the cracked 9 netherworld demon array. At the same time, while Xiaoping'an was making great achievements with one blow, attacks and artifacts from hundreds of gods came like a tsunami and hit Xiaoping'an's body. Those attacks directly shattered the barrier formed by the space storm around Xiaoping'an. Xiaoping'an roared, like a man fighting in the chaos of the army. He raised the giant prison tower in his hand again to kill the powerful enemy. The giant tower hit the hammer artifact and body of a demon god wearing a hard black armor. The artifact and the entire body of the demon god were instantly turned into dust and dissipated by the Avenue artifact. The bodies of several nearby gods were also affected by the aftermath of the Avenue artifact. Their bodies were shattered, vomited blood, and dispersed. But the dense attacks also rushed towards Xiaoping'an at the same time, without gaps or stagnation, rolling in like wheels, giving Xiaoping'an no chance to react. The space storm barrier formed by King Peng's light wings was supersaturated for the second time. The divine skill attack shattered, and there were surging creatures from all directions in the west. Xiaoping'an roared, and the divine prison tower turned from offense to defense, instantly blocking the attacks on one side. Xiaoping'an continued to charge forward, rushing into the huge tower of the gods. In the formation, they fought with those gods and fought bloody battles at close quarters. Xiaoping'an was surrounded by gods from all directions. Each of his 3 Dharma faces was guarding one side. His Ming King Dharma face roared angrily and acted alone. A huge and bright war bow and arrow appeared in his hand. It was just one arrow, a terrifying arrow. The light cut across thousands of miles and directly killed a god of the imperial throne. In the next second, the power of 7 or 8 artifacts also bombarded King Ming's Dharma. At this moment, King Ming's Wujian divine body once again showed the strongest characteristics of the realm of gods. The outside is like void, swallowing all attacks, and the inside is like diamond, indestructible. The war bow turned into a sword. King Ming Faxiang held a flaming long sword. The sword flashed across the sky, and with one sword he cut an charging bull-headed god into 2 pieces from head to toe. The Peng King's Dharma appearance in the battle was also powerful. The Peng King's light wings became Xiaoping'an's most solid barrier and shield. Although the space storm barrier fanned by the light wings was destroyed time and time again by supersaturated divine skill attacks, but it appeared again and again, and King Peng's combat power also shook the world. A close god just broke through the barrier of the space storm, and the mountain-like body was directly torn apart by the hands of King Peng's Dharma, and then burned to ashes in golden flames. Xiaoping'an's true form also roared angrily, and the ripples when waving the Dao artifact shook the void, blocking all attacks and powerful enemies coming from the front, making the bodies of all the gods close to him seem to be solidified in the void, while Xiaoping'an each of his hairs became 30,000 feet long, flying in the void. Each hair seemed to have spirituality at this time, writing golden and wild cursive divine inscriptions while flying. Divine words come out one after another, or they transform into large formations of divine runes in the blink of an eye, or divine skills come out from the words to kill and attack. One person fights in all directions, and every hair on Xiaoping'an's body is fighting. This kind of battle, Xiaoping'an was in the formation, was endless, and the battle lasted for 10 days. During these 10 days, the blood of the gods gathered in the formation to form rivers and seas, and the corpses of the gods formed land in the formation. Then the rivers and land were shattered again and again. The battle was so brutal that it was indescribable. In these 10 days, Xiaoping'an has forgotten how many gods under the command of the demon god he has killed, but the gods rushing towards him seem to be endless and never stop. Xiaoping'an only remembers his current body. Directly it was blasted to pieces 7 times. Each time his divine body was blasted to pieces, he relied on the powerful power of faith, the terrifying power of Ming Wujian's divine body, the eternal divine spring, and the genius treasures he had collected before to quickly recover and condense, and then again get into battle. The gods who fought with Xiaoping'an also fought with fear in these 10 days. Such a brutal battle, even in the god realm, has not been seen for many, many years. On the 11th day of the battle, Xiaoping'an's true form swung the divine prison tower and shattered half of the body of a demon god on the opposite side. At the same time, dozens of artifacts bombarded him. At the same time, Xiaoping'an's Peng King tore into pieces the body of a 100-mile-long demon dragon clan god. Then the Peng King opened its mouth and swallowed the demon dragon's body as food, biting it until the flesh and blood flew everywhere. This fierce and cruel divine battle has reached its peak. The gods that besieged Xiaoping'an were frightened by the terrifying aura that devoured the gods on Xiaoping'an, and they retreated in unison. At this moment, Xiaoping'an only had 1.5 of the 6 Peng King light wings left on his body. The rest of the light wings were all shattered and broken. The remaining 1.5 light wings were still burning with black flames. All his arms, there are only 3 left. The rest of the arms have not grown back after being cut off and smashed. As for the wounds on Xiaoping'an's body, there are hundreds of thousands, and each wound is flowing with golden blood. Several incomplete artifacts just inserted into his body, the golden blood burned in the air, making Xiaoping'an look like a god reborn from the ashes. Xiaopingyan stared at the giant tower of the divine prison, whose light was already dim. His mutilated body looked extremely weak and seemed to fall down at any time, but he still stood like a mountain in the air. The aura on his body made the besieging gods at this time no one dared to rush over again easily, because the experience of the past 10 days is that when all the gods who besieged Xiaopingyan thought that Xiaopingyan was dead, Xiaopingyan would always cheer up again, like a never-ending machine, and burst out again. With such terrifying power, the gods who rush forward first may become cannon fodder under the great Dao artifact. Xiaopingyan was still smiling, blood kept pouring out from his mouth, eyes, and nose. He had a narrow escape from death. This battle was like this for him. There is no need for a graveyard to bury the bones, there is no place in life without green hills. At this point in life, there are no regrets. Kill him, he has run out of gas and can't hold on much longer. The voice of the dominant demon roared at the top of his lungs in the formation. The gods who besieged Xiaopingyan were once again approaching step by step in fear. Xiaopingyan wanted to lift the divine prison tower again, but he found that the divine prison tower had become extremely heavy for him at this moment. His divine power was close to exhaustion. This Dharma was on the verge of collapse. The enemy's artifact, the breath, was still rushing around his body, cutting the tendons and internal organs of his body, and at this moment, his body could no longer heal itself in a short period of time. I don't know why, but at this time, Xiaopingyan suddenly felt joyful in his mind. He remembered the days when he and Xiaoning lived in a small rented house when they were young, and went to set up stalls every weekend. The bitter time and memories, when I think back on them at this time, are particularly warm and precious. I should be able to earn 2 more, but even if I die, this great artifact cannot fall into the hands of the dominant demon god. The final gift package of void divine thunder that I have prepared can allow this great artifact to escape in the end. Xiaopingyan thought to himself, with a calm smile on his face. Xiaopingyan didn't know why the god from the side of the heavenly lord didn't show up, but he knew there must be a reason. Just when the Wu Yang Yang figures surrounding Xiaopingyan were about to get close enough to attack Xiaopingyan again, Xiaopingyan felt as if he was hallucinating. In his ears, he actually heard a song that could not appear in the song here. That song comes from the void, with an indescribable charm. Those who are secretly in ecstasy just need to say goodbye. Xiaopingyan thought it was an illusion, but the next second, he knew that it was not an illusion, because the faces of all the gods who besieged him showed frightened looks when they heard this song. All the movements were frozen. Moreover, Qin, Wu, and the country were cut off, and Yan and Zhao were restored thousands of miles away. Sometimes the moss begins to grow in spring, and the autumn wind suddenly rises. As a result, my heart is broken, and I feel all kinds of sadness. In the midst of this song, a sword light broke through the 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons formation and fell from the sky. The entire formation roared and trembled. Then, that sword light was like a sudden bleak autumn wind, filling every inch of the formation, with one sword spanning 1,000,000 miles. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1216. The wind rustled and whistled, and the clouds were long and strangely colored. The boat was stagnant on the waterfront, and the carriage was sluggish on the side of the mountain. The boat was standing in front of the mountain, and the horse was humming coldly. Who can control it when the golden wine cup is covered, and the jade pillar is stained across the she? People are lying down in sorrow, as if they are dead. The sun sets on the wall and the color sinks, and the moon rises and shines. See the red orchid receiving the dew, and look at the green catalpas leaving the frost. The rows of couplets are empty, covering the brocade curtain. But it is cold and empty. I know that I am wandering away from my dream, and my soul is flying away. The loud and exciting song echoed throughout the 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons array. The sword light in the song not only had the terrifying power of creating the world, but also was like the words in the song, with myriad artistic conceptions that made people feel breathless. Among them, the gods who dominated the demon god side were overwhelmed by the light of the sword and the singing. For a moment, no one dared to touch their swords. Xiaoping'an looked over and saw the bodies of those gods that he had seen before, ranging from their limbs broken to pieces, to being completely wiped out on the spot. The murderous aura, momentum, and sword light were invincible and hardy to those who blocked them. All gods of war. Xiaoping'an heard the roars and wailings of countless gods, and it seemed that this name had great power to intimidate. In the midst of the singing, the person wielding the sword was a young man who looked like a young man. He was wearing white cloud-like clothes and had black hair. He was elegant and domineering. The light of the sword in his hand swept millions of miles in a matter of seconds, slashing through it. The power of the sky. Therefore, although farewell is a thread, the matter is related to all races. As for dragons and horses with silver saddles, Zhu Xian embroidered scrolls, drinking in the East capital in the tent, seeing off guests in the Golden Valley. The music and feathers are spread, the flutes and drums are played, the songs of Yan and Zhao are hurting the beauty, and the pearls and the jade is beautiful in late autumn, and the Luo and Qi 11 are delicate in spring. The horses are frightened with their backs, and the red scales of the fish in the abyss are lifted up. I cry when I break my hand, and feel lonely and sad. Amid the singing, the sword light had already struck in front of Xiaoping'an across tens of thousands of kilometers. Xiaoping'an remained unmoved. The sword light flashed past Xiaoping'an and turned into blue flowers blooming in the void. Lotus surrounded and protected Xiaoping'an. 2 gods rushed towards Xiaoping'an. In the bloom of the green lotus, their bodies were shattered into ashes and were killed instantly. This swordsmanship is so terrifying. It is the pinnacle of the fusion of spiritual skills and martial arts. It should be number 1 in all realms of the universe. Looking at the green lotus blossoming around him, Xiaoping'an finally breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that he could not die. The powerful gods under the command of the Lord of Heaven had finally arrived. There is a swordsman who is ashamed of his kindness and a young reporter. He is in the palace of Zhao in South Korea and the city of Yan in the Wu Palace. He has cut off his kindness and forbears his love and left his country. We wept together and looked at each other with blood. He drove the horses and ignored them. When he saw the dust, he started. Fang Xian feels the sword, not the price in the spring. The color of gold and stone changes due to the vibration, the bones and flesh feel sad and the heart dies. In the midst of the song, the young man in white not only protected Xiaoping'an with one sword, but also prevented Xiaoping'an from being attacked by other gods. He was more like a chisel, blasting through the entire 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons formation like a chisel. The lineup of gods under the demon god's command has such combat power that it is difficult to match it among the gods. Such a battle dazzled Xiaoping'an. Xiaoping'an asked himself, with his current state, even if he is in the state of becoming a god, even if he still holds the Dao artifact in his hand, compared with that young man in white, there is still a huge gap. The divine fire ignited by the young man in white may have reached a certain limit of the divine fire before it can show such terrifying combat power. Realizing that he no longer had to fight, the bodyguards had arrived. At this moment, Xiaoping'an quickly recovered his strength. Mysterious brilliance lit up on his body. The fragments of the artifact that had been inserted into his body were gradually removed from his body. Forced out of his body, the blood flowing from the wounds on his body was decreasing, his depleted divine power was recovering, and the broken arm slowly began to grow again. Just now, King Peng's Faxiang tore apart and swallowed an evil dragon with great tyranny in the battle. The body of that evil dragon is being digested by King Peng's Faxiang, and is continuously converted into the power of Xiaoping'an's body. This is also the secret method of King Peng's Faxiang. 1. During a bloody battle, one can devour dragons to strengthen themselves. It's just that the power gained from this kind of devouring is completely incomparable to that of Shenluo. The two are not the same level of power manifestation, but they can be of great use at critical moments. Perhaps the border counties are not at peace, so they join the army with their feathers. The Liao River is endless, and the wild geese mountains are covered with clouds. The breeze is warm in the boudoir, and the grass on the street is smoked. The sun rises in the sky and shines on the scene, and the dew falls on the ground and the text is soaring. The red dust in the mirror shines, the green air is full of smoke. I can't bear to say goodbye to the peaches and plums, and I can't bear to say goodbye to my beloved son. As soon as we go to the end of the country, how can we meet each other? Amidst the singing, the green lotuses bloomed layer by layer in the void around Xiaopingan, wrapping Xiaopingan tightly. In the blink of an eye, there were several more gods rushing towards Xiaopingan. King Lian's body burst into pieces and she quickly retreated. Yan Liqiang, the dominant demon, roared angrily. Ha ha ha, Lord Demon God, we meet again. No matter how you plan or intercept, you can't win this game. In the God realm, you did not take advantage of the battle with our division. The interception you arranged, the army is about to collapse, and you can't kill him here. The intruding god named Yan Liqiang laughed. Junior brother is right, they can't win. When this voice appeared in the void, Xiaopingan felt that the entire 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons array suddenly darkened, and time and space seemed to solidify and slow down. A brilliant brilliance, like the 9 heavens, the divine thunder struck down from above, with terrifying power, landed at the speed of light in the void where the gods under the command of the demon god were densest. With a startling glance, Xiaopingan only saw in the white light, a majestic god wearing blood-red armor, with lightning flashing all over his body, and holding a black giant hammer in his hand. Boom, boom, boom. The white light that swept everything was mixed with rolling thunder and an energy shockwave that was enough to annihilate the gods. It exploded violently in an instant, violently and simply tearing apart the void, covering tens of millions of square kilometers around the impact point, and dominated the hundreds of gods on the side of the demon god. It was completely destroyed in this blow. Under this blow, the entire 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons formation collapsed once again in the void, producing countless cracks. Xiaopingan was shocked again. This attack seemed too simple, but because it looked simple, it was the most difficult. The attack was a combination of simple power and terrifying kinetic energy brought by speed, as well as several secret and powerful spiritual skills are mixed in, which can not only amplify the kinetic power of the attack 100 times, but also transform the quality of the damage caused by the kinetic attack, making it have a devastating effect on even the existence of the first-level god. This god who came down with a giant hammer once again caused confusion among the gods under the command of the dominant demon god, who were fighting a bloody battle in the formation, and their momentum was completely suppressed. In the white light, the god with the giant hammer on his shoulder slowly walked out of the white light. Every time the god took a step, the entire 9 netherworld 10,000 demons formation would tremble. After walking out of the white light, the god was extremely domineering. He looked down at all the gods under the command of the Lord Demon God present, with a disdainful smile on his face. I am Zhang Qinglei, the son of the Lord. Who of you wants to come and die? The great prince. Some gods exclaimed. The next second, another voice sounded in the sky, brother, I'm here too. As soon as this voice fell, in the sky of the 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons array, a rainbow-like arrow shot down from the sky. The arrow silently penetrated the bodies of hundreds of gods before dissipating. When it found itself after his divine body was penetrated by the arrow, the penetrated gods reacted belatedly, and then, all the penetrated divine bodies exploded and turned into ashes. A god figure holding a colorful giant bow calmly walked down from the void of the formation. This god was extremely handsome, with a gentle smile on his face. That Xuanhuan Tianxin demon-killing arrow, It took many years of refining to make it. You can die under my arrows, or you can rest in peace." As he spoke, the god moved his hand, and hundreds of colorful arrows were suspended in his hand. Each of the 7 colored arrows exuded a terrifying evil aura and power that chilled the god. Surprise or not surprisingly, I have refined so many Xuanhuan Tiangs in arrows, and I can use them all today. You are lucky. The second prince who dominates. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1217. Rainbow-like arrows shot past Xiaopingan one after another. Rainbows with brilliant brilliance passed over the blooming green lotus beside Xiaopingan, like spring breeze blowing over the water. Wherever the arrows passed, the void was like the water surface that was cut created circles of ripples. Wherever the rainbow passed, the mountain-like bodies of the gods closest to Xiaopingan were directly penetrated and blasted away, killing them with one arrow. With just a few arrows fired, a large area of space in front of and behind Xiaopingan was cleared. No matter how stupid the gods under the Lord Demon God were, they understood that at this time, the closer they got to Xiaopingan, the faster they would die. With the arrival of these powerful gods, the situation in the entire 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons formation was instantly reversed and turned into a pot of porridge. The 3 gods of the heavens, Yanliqiang, the Lord's Son, Zhangqinglei and Zhangchengting, are like a huge triangle, guarding Xiaoping's body in 3 directions, resisting the thousands of gods in the formation. The battle was still going on, and the entire 9 netherworld 10,000 demons array was full of terrifying roars of divine skills. Xiaopingan, who was surrounded by rainbows and green lotuses, finally laughed, and smiled with relief. He had already "I am ready to die here. Now it seems that I don't have to die." It is quite interesting for him to be the master of heaven. He has sent his disciples and sons. There is still a chance, kill Xiaopingan. The dominant demon god was still roaring angrily. Seeing that the duck that was about to be cooked flew away, the dominant demon god was understandably anxious. Thousands of bloody lights in the sky fell on the heads of the gods who dominated the demon god's side. Those gods instantly became violent and rushed towards Xiaopingan desperately. Xiaopingan once again became the focus of the formation. Qinglian, giant hammers and rainbow-like arrows killed a large number of rushing gods and resisted the attacks of countless divine skills. However, there were still gods that continued to rush towards Xiaopingan, and the light of various divine skills cut through the sky covered the area where Xiaopingan was. Of course, Xiaopingan, who had recovered some strength, would not sit still and wait for death. He pointed at the divine prison tower, and the divine prison tower buzzed, and the dazzling light was lit again. The divine prison tower hung directly above his head, spinning. Protected Xiaopingan, and the various divine skills that hit the giant tower of the divine prison were either bounced away, or they were unable to shake the Avenue artifact at all. Xiaopingan knows that what he needs most now is time. As long as he lives, it is victory. He does not need to attack now, but only needs to defend. The situation in the formation will definitely change again. The 3 princes should be just the vanguard of the army of the gods of the Lord of Heaven. Behind them, there will definitely be gods under the Lord of Heaven. Seeing this, the Lord of the Devil became even more anxious and wanted to kill himself. "Ha ha ha, is it so lively? I, Fan Sangguang, am here." There was a wild laugh in the sky, and a god wearing a green robe and a long beard, who looked unrestrained, came again. Following the voice, 4 city-sized mountains of gold bricks fell from the sky, and landed on Xiaopingan's front, back, left, and right sides respectively. While smashing dozens of incoming gods into ashes of flesh and blood, they also once again resisted countless gods' techniques for Xiaopingan. Of bombardment. Those 4 gold bricks are too big. Each gold brick is like a city. Such a big and thick gold brick is still a divine weapon. Its defensive power can be imagined. Those divine skills that hit the gold bricks are just let the gold brick roar, but you can't shake the gold brick one bit. 4 huge gold bricks directly protected Xiaopingan from 4 directions, causing those divine skills that could still attack Xiaopingan to almost disappear. Everyone says that my gold brick is for sneak attacks. In fact, they all misunderstood. When traveling in all worlds, safety comes first. This gold brick is actually the best self-defense shield. Such a thick and large gold brick can't be refined. It will become a magical weapon, no matter who can cut it. When I encounter the Taoist master and I accidentally run out of money, I can scrape some powder on the gold bricks and exchange it for wine. The familiar voice appeared in Xiaopingan's ears again. The one called Fan Sangguang's descending spirit appeared directly in the enemy's formation, took out another gold brick, and smashed it fiercely at the gods under the command of the demon god, cursing as he threw it back. He smashed the gods under the command of the dominant demon god until they howled like ghosts. At this time, the dominant demon god became even more crazy. Streams of blood light continued to fall from the sky on the heads of the gods under his command. Those gods shrouded in blood light launched waves of attacks towards Xiaopingan's place one by one as if they were desperate for their lives. Charge! The battle within the entire formation has once again entered a fever pitch. Another ray of light fell from the sky and fell beside Xiaopingan. As soon as this ray of light fell, several creatures who had just rushed outside the huge gold brick were crushed by the sharp sword light. Mr. Zheng. Looking at this familiar figure and face, Xiaopingan felt a huge surprise. The figure that fell in front of Xiaopingan was none other than Jing Lao, but at this moment, Jing Lao's body was already filled with the undisguised aura of the 10,000 Yao gods. Jing Lao looked at Xiaopingan and breathed a long sigh of relief. "You're okay, it's not too late after all." "Ha ha ha, congratulations to Mr. Jing for being promoted to a god," Xiaopingan said to Mr. Zheng. Xiaopingan was not surprised that Mr. Jing could become a god. Xiaopingan had even suspected that Mr. Jing might be the avatar of a god. "Thanks to you," Mr. Jing was still humble and calm, making people feel like a spring breeze. In the battle of the god realm, a single move affects the whole body. The Lord Demon God has spent a lot of money to kill you here this time, not only here. They have set up a formation of 9 netherworlds and 10,000 demons to kill you. They have even set up an army formation in the void leading from the God realm to intercept the army under the command of the Lord of Heaven. The Lord of Heaven will take advantage of this opportunity. Avoid the truth and attack the imaginary, fight with the dominant demon god in the God realm, take the opportunity to concentrate on taking down the demon tribulation heaven in the God realm, and then let the forwards break through the dominator demon god's army to intercept, and rush here to help. This time, the dominant demon god will lose. End. After hearing Jing Lao's words, Xiaopingan finally understood why he had been fighting alone here a few days ago, because the battle here had already involved the divine war in the God realm. The power of the two masters had started from this, and in various positions there was a fierce battle on the battlefield. The demon lord wanted to destroy himself and mobilized his army, causing the God realm to be empty of the demon tribulation heaven. The Lord of Heaven took the opportunity to destroy the demon tribulation heaven in the God realm, and then turned his gun to kill him. Return. Xiaopingan didn't know where in the God realm the devil's tribulation heaven was, but it must be important to both the ruler of the devil and the ruler of heaven. The dominant demon god is actually betting that his own life may be more important to him than the demon tribulation heaven. Why is this happening? Xiaopingan doesn't know. The answer should be in Yuanji Temple. I see, I understand, as long as my blood these days is not in vain. This is a fruit that the Lord of Heaven asked me to bring you. He said that if you eat this fruit, all your injuries will be restored, Jing Lao said, and with a move of his hand, he took out a fruit that exuded a strange fruit with purple light came out. The fruit looked so strange, like a vibrant planet seen from the sky. The inside of the fruit was still shrouded in clouds and mist, and there seemed to be weather changes, and the whole fruit was still carrying the indescribable aroma. Xiaoping'an just took a sip of the aroma and felt that the recovery speed of the wounds on his body began to increase instantly. In Xiaoping'an's current situation, ordinary magic medicines, natural materials, and earthly treasures can actually have very little effect, but this fruit seems to be an exception. How could the things sent by the Lord of Heaven be ordinary goods? Xiaoping'an was sure that the value of this fruit would probably exceed his imagination. What kind of fruit is this? This is the world fruit. These words may sound like a long story, but in fact, the two of them communicated with each other through spiritual thoughts, and it only took 2 seconds from the time Mr. Jing appeared to the present. After receiving Jing Lao's answer, Xiaoping'an stopped being pretentious and opened his mouth directly, and the fruit flew into his mouth. He chewed it in a few mouthfuls and swallowed the fruit. Seeing Xiaoping'an eating the fruit, and several demon gods rushing towards him from afar, having already crossed the 4 city-like gold bricks, Jing Lao waved his hand, and countless rumbling thunders struck down from the sky. It fell on those demon gods and blasted their limbs into pieces. Xiaoping'an only felt that his mouth was full of fragrance, and the moment after the world was eaten, he felt that the injuries on his body were healing at an unimaginable speed. The broken arms and light wings grew rapidly and became stronger. Resilience, the originally depleted divine power in the secret mandala, suddenly became as full as the sea. What is even more exaggerated is that the divine fire lit on the altar of his secret mandala suddenly had 7 more flames, and his Mingwang Wujian divine body, the realm, was once again raised to a higher level by a powerful force. At this moment, brilliance continued to flash in the sky, and one after another the gods from the side of the heavenly way landed in the 9 nethers and 10,000 demons formation. The absolute advantage of the gods under the command of the demon god in the formation was rapidly changing, and the formation the gods within are fighting fiercely, and there are battlefields everywhere in the void millions of kilometers away. After taking that world fruit, in less than 10 seconds, Xiaoping'an's body not only recovered, but his strength reached a new peak. Every pore and cell in his body was filled with power like mountains and seas. Xiaoping'an, even I feel that I can persist here for another month until I kill all the gods under the command of the demon god. The dominant demon god has already sent his avatar to the Yuanji temple. There are still tests waiting for you in the Yuanji temple. Leave the battle here to us. You go to the Yuanji temple immediately. Jing Lao's voice once again appeared in Xiaoping'an's consciousness. Appear. Xiaoping'an roared and dodged. After the Dao artifact in his hand smashed several demon gods that rushed over, he rose into the sky, 6 wings of light spread out, and with an indomitable momentum, he raised the artifact in his hand. The Avenue artifact flew directly towards the crack at the top of the formation. Stop him! The dominant demon roared. Seeing Xiaoping'an about to rush out of the formation, the god of war Yanliqiang roared loudly, and a terrifying sword light bloomed in the sky. In the sword light, 100,000 green lotuses bloomed, directly destroying all those who wanted to stop Xiaoping'an. All the enemy gods were intercepted. Immediately afterwards, the 2 sons of the Lord also took action at the same time. A rainbow-like arrow passed through Xiaoping'an's side and hit a point in the sky of the formation. Then the giant hammer turned into light and flew towards the same point again. Above, countless cracks have appeared in the 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons formation. Xiaoping'an arrived in the form of light, and the Dao artifact in his hand blasted out with unspeakable terrifying momentum, hitting the place where the 2 attacks just landed. Boom! The barrier of the formation in front of Xiaoping'an was directly shattered, just like the barriers of thousands of worlds and countless layers of space were shattered. Xiaoping'an, with his strong will to hold Mount Tai and surpass the North Sea, rushed out of the formation and came outside. The Sea of 10,000 Stars. After fighting hard for so many days, I finally broke out. The Yuanji temple was already in front of him. Xiaoping'an looked back and saw that in the formation at this moment, the army of gods under the command of the Lord of Heaven had been pouring into the crumbling 9 netherworld and 10,000 demons array. The situation in the magic formation had begun to reverse, so Xiaoping'an no longer worried, and rushed directly towards the Yuanji temple. In the blink of an eye, his body disappeared into the entrance of the Yuanji temple. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1218. This is, inside the Yuanji temple, it looks like the broken fragments of the kingdom of God. Xiaoping'an looked at the towering trees around him and froze in place for several seconds. What appeared in front of him was a strange forest. The forest was extremely quiet. A thin layer of mist floated in the forest, like a mysterious veil over the place. In the mist, you could see this. There are thick trunks of big trees in the forest. These big trees are some years old, but they are growing staggeringly. There are also many big trees that are broken and carbonized, as if they have experienced a terrible disaster a long time ago. Like a disaster. And in the mist, within Xiaoping'an's sight, he could still see several irregularly shaped dark black space cracks hidden in the mist. For people walking in the forest, such as space cracks are very dangerous, because if you are not careful, the space cracks can cut your body into 4 and 5 pieces, and it is unknown where the space cracks lead to. Before coming to the Yuanji temple, Xiaoping'an had done a lot of homework related to the Yuanji temple. The Xuanhuan temple can be said to be one of the most mysterious places in the universe. There is no pattern to follow when and where the Xuanhuan temple appears. And according to past records, every time the Xuanhuan temple appears, those who enter the Xuanhuan temple see the scenery in the Xuanhuan temple and encounter things that are different from before. This is an ever-changing place. Xiaoping'an didn't understand the origin of the different scenery in the Xuanhuan temple before, but now that he saw it, it suddenly dawned on him that there was more than a 70% chance that everyone would see different scenes every time the Yuanji temple was opened. Is the fragment of the kingdom of God in the temple? The only similarity is that in the history of the Yuanji temple's appearance in the past, all those who entered it, those who could persist to the back of the Yuanji temple, would enter a place like a maze. In that maze, there are powerful divination is particularly important, but from beginning to end, no one has ever been able to penetrate that maze. The Dao artifact hidden in the Yuanji temple has never appeared in the world, and no one even knows the length of the Chaos Yuanji lock. What? Xiaoping'an felt the power in his body again, and his eyes showed a hint of solemnity. His body at this moment has returned to the original appearance, but now this body cannot use any divine power at all. His divine kingdom, secret mandala, formation, the laws and talismans are all completely suppressed and blocked by the power of the laws here, and the power of the 5 elements here cannot be mobilized. Moreover, the powerful abilities originally possessed by this body, such as the power of his Mingwangwujian divine body, are also completely blocked. At this moment, Xiaoping'an even had the same feeling as when he had just entered the Order Committee and became a summoner on the planet Wa. The only thing that made Xiaoping'an happy was that he found that his divination ability of the innate great wisdom and divine light was still there. It is worthy of being a forbidden place for gods. The information and legends about this place are all true. Xiaoping'an took a deep breath as he scanned the surrounding environment. According to legend, all powerful people who enter the Yuanji temple will be affected by the Chaos Yuanji lock in the Yuanji temple. Their strength and abilities will be suppressed, and they will become mortals similar to ordinary people. If the god who ignited the divine fire comes in, he will even be suppressed here forever by the Chaos Yuanji lock, and will never be able to leave until the divine fire is extinguished and falls. After understanding the situation at hand, Xiaoping'an squeezed the 2 long whips in his hands, wrapped one long whip around his waist, and held the other long whip in his hand, and cautiously explored the forest. The long whip was condensed from the liquid metal of the Immortal Legion, reinforced with precious materials at the artifact level. It was specially prepared by Xiaoping'an to enter the Yuanji temple. Under normal circumstances, these 2 long whips can be transformed into any weapon. Just when he passed through the entrance of Yuanji temple, Xiaopinggan had already taken out his two long whips, because after entering here, even the space equipment could not be used, and he could only use what he carried with him. I prepared two long whips for myself as weapons, which can be used with both hands at the same time, which is more versatile. You can also combine the two long whips into one and use them at the same time. The immortal legions in the Yuanji temple have completely lost all their powerful transformation and combat abilities, leaving only their basic physical form and function when they turned into long whips. Xiaopinggan did not summon the little one, because in this environment, the little one might completely turn into a pile of metal lumps that cannot float. Previously, Jinglao said that the clone of the dominant demon god also entered the Yuanji temple, which made Xiaopinggan particularly vigilant. If the clone of the dominant demon god is a god, it will definitely not be able to enter, but if the dominant demon god just allows his clone to reach if you are in the divine realm, then you can come in. A being like the dominant demon god cannot use only the 9 nether 10,000 demons array outside the Yuanji temple to kill him. In the mist-shrouded forest, 1 or 2 space cracks would occasionally be seen in the mist, and it was not known where they lead. Xiaopinggan tried to divine and found that the consequences of entering those space cracks were serious, so he was extra careful. But after walking in the forest for less than 20 minutes, Xiaopinggan stopped suddenly because he had already smelled the thick smell of blood and the smell of corpses floating in the air here. Xiaopinggan groped towards the place where the smell of blood and corpses came from. After walking less than 200 meters, he saw the source of the bloody smell, 70 or 80 corpses scattered in the forest. On the edge of the pond, the corpses were in a very miserable state of death. Each of them had been disemboweled and decapitated, and each one was in pieces. The water in the pond turned blood red. Judging from the clothes worn by those corpses were most likely those powerful gods who had entered the Yuanji temple before. There were traces of battles on the big trees in the surrounding forest, and many tree trunks were torn apart. This sight made Xiaopinggan's heart slightly shocked. Suddenly, Xiaopinggan's eyes narrowed, his whole body suddenly leaned back, his feet kicked on the ground, and the long whip in his hand was rolled out behind him, and his whole body was filled with lightning. He quickly retreated more than 10 meters. Boom! The moment Xiaopinggan just stepped back, the big tree in front of his body that the two hugged had exploded and collapsed, and a huge blood-colored sword flew from the mist whistling. After cutting off the big tree, he roared into the mist again. If Xiaopinggan hadn't retreated quickly, the bloody sword would have struck him with just this blow. Who is it? Xiaopinggan stared in the direction where the bloody sword disappeared and asked in a cold voice. The reaction is fast enough. Even here, you are completely different from those idiots. A cold and solemn voice came from the mist. As this voice appeared, in the thin mist, the outline of a tall figure slowly walked out of the mist. It was a man wearing a black robe, dragging a blood-red gun like a door panel in his hand. A man with a huge sword and a violent and domineering aura. The man was more than 2 meters tall, and his entire body seemed to interpret the meaning of the words perfection and strength. He had black hair, blood-red eyes like rubies, a straight nose, and an indescribably handsome face. Even the slightest flaw does not seem to be a product of the human world, but that person's perfect face reveals a trace of devilish aura, and his body is filled with evil aura. Xiaopinggan looked at this man and his eyes shrank suddenly. The demon lord. To be more precise, this is the clone of the dominant demon god. Smart, I didn't expect us to meet again so soon. I didn't kill you just now in the 9 netherworld 10,000 demons formation and let you escape. Fortunately, it's not too late now. I'm still here waiting for you. The face smiled, and its blood-red eyes exuded a strange and dangerous light. He continued to walk towards Xiaopinggan. You couldn't kill me before, and you can't kill me now. Xiaopinggan squinted his eyes and stared at the approaching clone of the demon lord, already in a fighting stance. Really, the dominant demon smiled calmly, I believe you won't say that soon. I haven't used the clone of the god under the gods for a long time. Now this clone of mine, the ignited god the flame has reached 81 rays, which is the peak of the god's ability to ignite the divine flame. The secret method of mastering the divine body practiced by this clone has reached the top level. Even if this clone is affected by the chaos Yuanji lock in the Yuanji temple, this body, the strength left behind by the clone, can completely suppress you. I don't see the possibility of you surviving from my hands. The dominant demon smiled coldly, and his entire figure disappeared instantly. The moment the figure of the dominant demon god disappeared, Xiaopingan quickly jumped away to the side without even thinking about it. Boom! The blood-red sword light slashed across Xiaopingan's place, leaving a deep ravine on the ground. The figure of the dominant demon god had appeared beside Xiaopingan. At the same time, the long whip in Xiaopingan's hand was like a spiritual snake. It bounced on the ground and suddenly wrapped around the neck of the dominant demon god. The edge of the long whip was as sharp as a sword blade. This time a cut is the same as being struck by a sword. The giant sword in the hand of the dominating demon god roared in the air, and slashed directly at the head of the long whip. The long whip was originally bent when attacking, but when the giant sword of the dominating demon god struck, it bent. The long whip became straight in an instant, and there was only a crisp sound of dang. The huge thrust from the long whip made Xiaopingan's body disappear into the mist behind him. Xiaopingan used his strength to retreat quickly. Only after the clone of the dominant demon struck a blow did he realize that he had been fooled. He roared and immediately chased after him. Although Xiaopingan was not flying in the woods, it was almost like flying. The two long whips in his hands were constantly rolling around the branches of the tree trunks while waving them. With just a push of Xiaopingan's hands, the whole person disappears in the woods in a flash, and can change the direction of the body at will while turning in and out. The other free long whip can be used to attack the dominating demon god's clone. The clone of the dominant demon was as fast as lightning, chasing Xiaopingan. A blood-red giant sword was like a shadow growing behind Xiaopingan, constantly chasing Xiaopingan. The two of them were advancing rapidly in the forest and fighting each other quickly. During the pursuit, large trees fell down and exploded in the forest. The dominating demon god's clone is indeed strong, but Xiaopingan is like a prophet who can always seize the opportunity and respond one step ahead of the dominating demon god's attack. Moreover, Xiaopingan's body shape changes rapidly with the help of the long whip. Changing the direction of the body's progress at any time, this makes the clone of the dominant devil always chasing after him. Half an hour later, Xiaopingan leaped down from a cliff, and the dominant demon god also chased him down. The two of them fell into the rolling sea of fog under the cliff at the same time. The two sides fell in the air while whipping their swords back and forth, fighting fiercely. After the two sides exchanged dozens of moves and fell thousands of meters from the cliff, the long sword of the dominant demon finally broke through the defense of Xiaopingan's two long whips, grazed Xiaopingan's neck and slashed across Xiaopingan's body. There was a deep blood groove on the arm of one hand. Xiaopingan groaned and rolled out. As the injured Xiaopingan tumbled, a long whip pierced the cliff. His body swayed, and he suddenly changed the direction of his fall and jumped out from another direction. In the blink of an eye, his entire figure was transformed. In a short time, he fell into a gray space crack. That space crack disappeared without a trace in an instant after Xiaopingan fell into it. But the dominant demon was only a moment late, and his figure had already fallen dozens of meters. When he looked at Xiaopingan, Xiaopingan had disappeared. In the mist-rolling void, the roar of the dominant demon god came again. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1219. Xiaopingan, who passed through the space crack, only fell more than 10 meters, passed through a thick layer of fog, and then landed on the cold water with a bang. Sound, causing water to splash everywhere. Even in the process of falling, Xiaoping's body still maintained a fighting posture, with two long whips ready to blast out at any time, and his eyes were fixed on the space crack he passed through, until he saw that crack. The space crack disappeared after he passed through, and Xiaoping finally breathed a sigh of relief. This time, I won the bet. I am temporarily free from the crisis of being chased by the demon god's clone. Xiaoping exhaled a long breath, and gently slid his hands on the water, and he was already floating on the water. Here, the water surface was not calm. Xiaoping was rising and falling in the water, and he was carefully observing the surrounding environment. He didn't know where this place was. The surrounding waters were filled with fog, and there was also fog in the sky. It was a bit gloomy and there was no sunshine. Xiaoping could only maintain this state for now. The current realm and combat power of the dominating demon god's clone are indeed stronger than him, but Xiaoping also has his own advantages, which is the top-notch divination skills brought by the innate wisdom of the Emperor's divine light. Xiaoping does not believe in the divination skills mastered by the dominating demon god's clone. He can also be stronger than himself. When he was being chased by the overlord demon god just now, Xiaoping was using his powerful divination skills to fight for a chance of survival for himself from beginning to end, predicting the opponent's attack direction and intentions in an instant in advance, so as to offset and fight against the overlord demon god. There is a difference in the strength of the clones, and when being hunted, he uses divination to find his own way out. That cliff, and the space crack under the cliff, were the way out that Xiaoping found for himself. Facts have proved that he won the bet this time, and the clone of the dominant demon was indeed slightly inferior to him in divination. This should be the sea. Xiaoping frowned slightly. The wound left by the Lord Demon God on his arm was now immersed in the water, and there was a burning pain. This pain came from the salt in the water. Impregnation, the weapon used by the Master Demon clone, did not have any poison on it, which is good news. In fact, there are almost no poisons that can threaten the god level. According to the rules of action of a Great Avenue artifact like the Chaos Yuanji lock, it is impossible to suppress the strength of the powerful god while allowing some kind of poison to kill the powerful god unscrupulously. Xiaoping, who was floating in the water, once again divined a hexagram. Judging from the hexagrams, this place was still in a certain space within the Yuanji temple. This made Xiaoping completely relieved. As long as it was within the Yuanji temple, it would be fine. Ordinary people can easily lose body temperature when soaking in such cold sea water. However, for Xiaoping, although his strength is suppressed now, soaking in the sea water for 10 or 8 days is not a big problem. The problem now is that the sea is surrounded by fog. How to get out of here is the key. With the current physical condition, it is basically impossible to swim out. You can't see anything around clearly and there is no direction. Xiaoping couldn't help but use the divine light of the innate great wisdom emperor to divine another hexagram for himself. The upper hexagram was the Gan hexagram and the lower hexagram was the Qian hexagram. The hexagram resembled water and sky. The environment in front of him was actually the same. This made Xiaoping was slightly startled. It's actually the need hexagram. Judging from the hexagram image and meaning of the need hexagram, this hexagram actually requires him to be good at waiting, and then things will change. Xiaoping simply floated on the water and lay on his back, doing nothing and patiently recovering his strength. After floating like this for more than 2 hours, the sky in this space gradually darkened, a large number of dark clouds gradually piled up in the sky, and the surrounding sea became even darker. Xiaoping found that the wind on the sea seemed to it got a little bigger, and suddenly, a bolt of lightning pierced the night sky in the darkness in the distance. Then, dense lightning appeared in the clouds in the distance. After a while, rumbling thunder appeared in the sky. Voice. The waves in the sea also grew bigger. Huge waves dozens of meters high kept coming, and large raindrops fell. Xiaoping opened his mouth, and then the raindrops fell from the sky, replenishing the moisture in his body. The sky there was lightning and thunder, and Xiaopinggan rose and fell with the waves, letting the waves take him wherever he went, just waiting patiently. The storm on the sea lasted all night. When the storm stopped completely, the fog on the sea and the dark clouds in the sky disappeared. The sky was clear and blue, and a red sun jumped out from the distant sea. The sea appeared again. Show its quiet and beautiful side. Last night, after drifting for hundreds of miles with the waves, Xiaopinggan didn't see even a trace of land. This was still the case after dawn. He floated on the sea for more than half an hour. Suddenly, Xiaopinggan discovered the sea not far away. Below, there was a huge shadow swimming towards him. When the shadow got a little closer and surfaced, Xiaopinggan discovered that it was a huge turtle. The turtle was so big that it was just the back of the turtle. It was bigger than 2 basketball courts. The turtle looked a little familiar. I seemed to have seen it before. In just a blink of an eye, the turtle swam to Xiaopinggan's side and screamed, looking quite happy. "It's you, Prime Minister Turtle." Xiaopinggan finally remembered why the turtle looked familiar, and he suddenly felt a surprise. When he advanced to the 8-Yang realm in the Forbidden Land, there was an ocean within the space cracks in the Forbidden Land. Many turtles would emerge from the space cracks. He cleaned the barnacles on the turtles. Those turtles also gave him boundary beads. This turtle was the largest one he encountered when cleaning barnacles. He also named this turtle Prime Minister Turtle. Unexpectedly, the turtle who had cleaned the barnacles himself would be encountered here. The huge turtle was also psychic. When Xiaopinggan called its name, it nodded repeatedly. "Haha, what are you eating? It's so nutritious. After all these years of not seeing each other, you've grown a lot bigger." Xiaopinggan laughed. The Prime Minister Turtle screamed and got under the water again. When he floated up, he directly put Xiaopinggan on its back, and then the Prime Minister Turtle swam in one direction. "You take me to a place where I can stay." Prime Minister Turtle nodded. Xiaopinggan sat on Prime Minister Turtle's back and let Prime Minister Turtle support him as he swam in one direction of the sea. Prime Minister Turtle looks big, but his speed in the sea is very fast and stable. When the sun is about to set, a huge island has appeared in front of Xiaopinggan. The island is lush, and it looks like wherever there is life, there will at least be enough fresh water. Riding the waves, Prime Minister Turtle quickly brought Xiaopinggan to the soft beach of the island, and called out again, indicating that Xiaopinggan could go down. "Is there a way to leave this island?" Xiaopinggan asked. Prime Minister Turtle nodded. "Okay, thanks." Xiaopinggan stepped on Prime Minister Turtle's forelimbs and jumped onto the beach. He waved to Prime Minister Turtle, who nodded to him, then slowly retreated into the sea and gradually disappeared. Xiaopinggan carefully explored the island for a while and was shocked, because the plants and fruit trees growing on the island were simply a big treasure house. Many of the plants on the island were extremely precious outside. Varieties and medicinal materials, but here they are everywhere. In addition to those precious plants, this island is indeed rich in fresh water resources. Xiaopinggan found a hole in a big tree to stay. After just 3 days of resting here, his injuries were completely healed. Then Xiaopinggan continued to explore the island. When Xiaopinggan came to the middle of the island, he found that there was a glorious palace with a golden roof on the towering mountain top in the middle of the island. The steps of the palace were clean, simple, and neat, and they were built all the way to the bottom of the mountain. Looking at the palace, Xiaopinggan understood that there should be a way to leave here in the palace. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1220. Xiaopinggan climbed up the steps to the top of the central mountain range of the island, and breathed a sigh of relief when he arrived at the door of the magnificent palace. He had thought that he might encounter some test along the way, so he was very cautious. Came here smoothly. The door of the palace was open. Looking over, the steps of the palace were decorated with gorgeous decorations such as ivory, agate, and coral. What surprised Xiaopinghan the most were the things planted in the garden outside the palace. It stands to reason that for such a magnificent palace, the things planted in the garden outside must be precious exotic flowers and exotic herbs. But what Xiaopinghan didn't expect was that the things planted in the garden outside the palace were all, the most common thing for Chinese people. The garden things are planted in categories on both sides of the road. Each type of crop occupies an area and is very easy to identify. On Xiaopinghan's left-hand side is a large fig garden, then a lettuce garden, and a pumpkin garden. On Xiaopinghan's right-hand side, there are a loofah garden, a watermelon garden, a bitter melon garden, and a melon garden. The fruits in these gardens grow, they are all very good. Extending from this garden, you can also see large areas of pistachios, walnuts, sunflowers, corn, tomatoes, sesames, potatoes, peanuts, and other crops planted in the adjacent gardens. Xiaopinghan wouldn't be so surprised if these common fruits and crops in China appeared here, but if so many things appeared here, it must have another meaning. Xiaopinghan looked at these things, his mind moved, and he suddenly thought of something. He glanced at the open palace door, calmed down, and strode directly into the palace. At the end of the palace, there is a huge rotunda hall. It is already on the top of the mountain, overlooking the sea on all sides of the island. When Xiaopinghan came here, he saw a tall figure standing with his hands behind his back. In front of the huge stone wall, which is more than 10 meters high and more than 10 meters long, he seems to be meditating on something. On the huge stone wall is a map of WA star. On it are the 6 characters comprehensive map of Kunyu and all nations. The rivers, lakes, seas, and land on the map are all filled with gold, silver, glazed jade and the like, making them lifelike. And the precious light overflows. The figure standing in front of the stone wall wears a soap-colored gold-embedded middle-ranking official hat on his head, a red 4-claw python robe on his body, an exquisite white jade belt around his waist, and a pair of civil and military soap boots on his feet, which makes him look extremely handsome. Xiaopinghan was imposing, and the official uniform he wore was the style of the official uniform of the Ming dynasty. Hearing the footsteps behind him, the man turned around, looked at Xiaopinghan, and smiled slightly. No one has been here for a long time. It is not that easy for those who enter Yuanji Temple to leave here. If you cannot pass this level, I can only send you out of Yuanji Temple. Xiaopinghan looked at the man. His face was white and beardless, his features were strong and dignified, his features were clear and compassionate. Xiaopinghan clasped his fists and bowed deeply to the man. Xiaopinghan has met Mr. Zheng. Since you know me, the man looked at Xiaopinghan with an expression of surprise and interest on his face. Countless people have come here in the past, but no one knows me. How do you know? Xiaopinghan said calmly, the fruits and vegetables planted outside the palace were all brought back to China by Duke Zheng from all over the world. The comprehensive map of Kunyu and 10,000 kingdoms in front of me was painted by Duke Zheng during his several trips to sea. After the Book of Mountains and Seas, Zheng Gong completed the feat of connecting the universe and the nations for China, and drew the first global map, which will shine forever. The 4-clawed red python suit worn by Zheng Gong should also be the one worn by the Yongle Emperor in Zheng. I gave it to you when you came back from your 3rd voyage to the west. Yes, the man in front of him is Zheng He, and he is also the well-deserved king of the 7 seas of WA star in Xiaopinghan's eyes, a great man who opened up the global age of navigation and great geographical discoveries. Where are you from? How can you know my past so well? This junior is from China. No wonder, hearing what Xiaopinghan said, Zheng He's face showed nostalgia and memories. After a while, he asked, are the Chinese people still growing the crops I brought back? Still planting, Xiaopinghan nodded. The lettuce, pumpkin, loofah, watermelon, bitter melon, melon, pistachio, walnut, sunflower, corn, tomato, sesame, potato, peanut, etc. that Mr. Zheng brought back from China. The crops are now eaten by Chinese people almost every day, and they have become a common thing on the tables of descendants of China. They are grown in many places. A pleased smile appeared on Zheng He's face, and he nodded, "That's good, that's good. Our country, China, should gather the best of all countries and make the land rich and fertile, so that the people will no longer suffer from hunger and everyone can live and work in peace and contentment." Good. There are now more than 1.4 billion Chinese descendants, and everyone eats these things brought back by Zheng Gong almost every day. These things, after Zheng Gong brought them back to China, have benefited Chinese descendants for hundreds of years, and will continue to benefit in the future. Zheng He gently touched the map on the huge stone wall in front of him and said proudly, "The comprehensive map of Kunyu and all nations in front of me is the map of the Ming Dynasty fleet that I led and fought with tens of thousands of naval officers and soldiers through thousands of years." The painting, which was painted over many decades after painstakingly traveling around the world, symbolizes the pinnacle of the Ming Dynasty's national power, craftsmanship, and civilization, and is proud of the world. In view of the general environment, this site may be closed at any time. Please move to the permanently operating source changing app as soon as possible. At this point, Zheng He sighed slightly, "It's just that things have changed. After my death, the traitors in the court colluded with the foreign missionaries who coveted my Chinese national treasure and stole the Kunyu Wangguoquanquan from the secret vault for their own selfish purposes. Picture, stole all the precious information that I and tens of thousands of Ming Dynasty Navy officers and soldiers had painstakingly gained during decades of sailing, and took it as their own, causing China to lose this important treasure. So that 100 years later, foreign missionaries took the picture stolen from the Ming Dynasty. The comprehensive map of Kunyu and all the kingdoms comes back, and the merits of greed are said to be painted by foreigners. However, the descendants of the Chinese people are ignorant and think that the comprehensive map of Kunyu and all the kingdoms is painted by foreigners. It is really sad and lamentable. This level is the comprehensive map of Kunyu and all nations in front of you. If you can tell from the map 7 points of evidence that this map was drawn by me and the Daming Navy, you will pass." After hearing this, Xiaopingan also sighed secretly. The materials that Zheng He and the Ming Dynasty fleet left behind, which can be called national treasures, were placed in the secret vault of the palace until Ming Xianzong, who wanted to take a look. When I went to the secret treasury to check the things Zheng He left behind, I found that all the national treasure level materials left by Zheng He had disappeared. This incident shocked the imperial court and made the emperor furious. But at this moment, official Lu Daxia jumped out and said that he had burned all the materials on Zheng He. He said that this was done to prevent the emperor from thinking about going to sea again, so as not to waste the people and money. This kind of thing was placed on the emperor's head. The moral kidnapping made Ming Xianzong unable to find a reason to get angry, and the matter ended up being abandoned. I don't know whether Lu Daxia burned those materials, but almost 60 years after Zheng He's death, Columbus, who set out with only a few people, discovered the New World in the vast sea. And around 1602, the missionary Lima Wendo came to China. He held the comprehensive map of Kunyu and 10,000 kingdoms in his hand and said that it was painted by a Westerner. Later generations took this as true and thought that Westerners had accomplished this feat. As a person who is familiar with Chinese history, Xiaopingan can't help but sigh when he thinks about this period of history. The great achievements of Chinese ancestors have shocked the past and the present, but most of the descendants of later generations have been deceived by brainwashing propaganda. They don't know the history. The truth makes many people regard thieves as their ancestors and blindly worship foreigners. It is really sad and lamentable. Under Zheng He's gaze, Xiaopingan walked to the comprehensive map of Kunyu and 10,000 kingdoms, scanned the comprehensive map of Kunyu and 10,000 kingdoms with a solemn expression, and finally spoke, "Since this level requires me to say after the Kunyu Wangguo Quantu was published as evidence for Zheng Gong and the Ming Navy fleet, the junior boldly spoke out. This is also the historical truth that every descendant of China should know. If there is any inappropriateness, please correct Zheng Gong. Zheng He nodded, okay, you say it. Xiaoping first came to the place where China was located in the comprehensive map of Kunyu and 10,000 kingdoms, pointed to the northern part of China on the map, and said in a deep voice, one of the evidences is that in the complete map of Kunyu and 10,000 kingdoms, Yuanan town in northern China, Qinglu after 100 years of political changes, these places, including Weilu town, Tula River, Shahu town, and Onan River, no longer had any special geographical significance. Around 1602. They were just small places. Matteo Ricci could not be on the map. Mapping out the place names of these meaningless small places in northern China, but these places are the route of Emperor Yongl's northern expedition, is meaningful and memorable to Zheng Gong and the Ming Dynasty Navy fleet. That's why Zheng Gong wrote it in. These places are marked on the comprehensive map of Kunyu and 10,000 kingdoms. Note 1. Especially the place Yumaquan on this map is even more inconspicuous, but it is clearly marked on the map. There is only one reason why Yumaquan appears on the Kunyu Wangguo complete map, and that is because Yumaquan is the place where Emperor Yongle passed away. Duke Zheng was grateful for Emperor Yongl's kindness as a monarch and his ministers, so he specially marked this place on the comprehensive map of Kunyu and 10,000 kingdoms. Zheng He looked at the place at Yumaquan in the complete map of Kunyu and all countries with sadness and nostalgia in his eyes. He didn't say anything, but nodded lightly. Xiaoping pointed to the area in southern China in the complete map of Kunyu and all nations. The second evidence is that in the third year of Xuanhuan, that is, 1428, Jiazai broke away from the Ming dynasty and was renamed Annan. From that time on, the Ming dynasty on the map, Jiazai was marked as Annan. By 1602, during the Wanli period, all maps marked Jiazai as Annan. If this map was drawn by missionaries in 1602, then it would also be Annan on the map, but in the complete map of Kunyu and all nations, this place is still noted as Jiazai, which means that the place names in the complete map of Kunyu and all nations were drawn before 1428, not after 1428, let alone 1602. Xiaoping came to the European part of the huge map again, pointing to the European cities that appeared in the comprehensive map of Kunyu and 10,000 kingdoms. Evidence 3, judging from the European map part, the cities in the complete map of Kunyu and 10,000 kingdoms, the city still retains its shape around 1420, but the major European cities around 1600 after the Renaissance do not appear. There is no papal territory on the map, the papal states, no Tuscany and no Florence, which were the most influential cities in Europe at the time. There is not even Marchetta, the birthplace of Matteo Ricci, because Marchetta was still part of the papal territory in 1420 and could not be marked. Xiaoping came to the American part of the map again and pointed to the geographical signs of the mountains and rivers in the interior of the Americas. This is evidence 4. Some geographical signs of the Americas appeared in the Kunyu Wangguo complete map. Europeans in Matteo Ricci's time I don't know yet, but Europeans gradually came to these places 200 years later, so this geographical information about the Americas could not have been brought by Matteo Ricci. This is the fifth most significant piece of evidence. Xiaoping came to the map of Australia. According to clear historical records from the West, the Spanish navigator Torres was the first Westerner to land on Australian soil in 1606. It is impossible for Matteo Ricci to draw a map of Australia in 1602, so the people who landed and drew the map of Australia must have been before Matteo Ricci. The Kunyu Wangguo complete map first marked Australia as the southern land. Land of the South was translated into Latin as Australis, and later translated into English as Australia, which is how Australia came to be. Xiaoping pointed to the astronomical symbols on the map of Kunyu and 10,000 kingdoms. The sixth evidence is that the astronomical symbols on this map are the ancient Chinese concept of the 5 planets of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, not the Western concepts of Mars and Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, etc. This shows that the original author of this map is China, not Matteo Ricci of the West. Xiaoping'an pointed to the Americas again. The seventh evidence is the time and ability to discover America. Zheng Gong's 7 great voyages, a total of 200,000 people were dispatched, and the exploration ability was 1,000 times that of any European voyager as mentioned above. Each time he went to sea, he took multiple routes and it took 2–3 years to make a discovery. However, in 1497, Columbus' 3 ships and less than 100 crew members discovered America in only 3 months. Logically speaking, Columbus was not, instead of discovering the Americas, he sailed directly to the Americas with a map. The map Columbus obtained came from the precious information that disappeared in the Ming dynasty's royal secret vault. The two are comparable in time. The eighth piece of evidence on the complete map of Kunyu and all nations is the 1,114 place names on this map. Many of these place names were unfamiliar to the West in 1602, and no Westerners had ever been there. Xiaoping'an's finger traced on the map. Actually, there are more than 7 pieces of evidence. On this island called Cape Breton, which is adjacent to the North American continent in East Canada, before the arrival of the Europeans, the East Coast detachment of Zheng Gong's fleet was there. People have lived on this island for a long time and built the first artificial canal in America. The costumes of the indigenous residents on Cape Breton Island still retain the costume characteristics of Zheng Gong's hometown of Yunnan. In the annotations of the Kunyu Wangguo Quantu collected in Japan, there is a record that the king gave birth to a son at the age of 30, and the king gave birth to him. Studying Japanese history, Emperor Gamatsu of Japan reigned for 30 years. In 1412 he passed the title of Emperor Guang to his son in 1412. Emperor Guang reigned from 1412 to 1428, which happened to be the era of Zheng Gong's global voyage. Also, Zheng Gong's last voyage to the west was in the 5th year of Xuanhuan. During this voyage, Zheng did the Duke send envoys to North America and give the local indigenous people a bronze medal engraved with Xuanhuan Commission of the Ming Dynasty. Yes, there is such a thing, Zheng he nodded. The Xuanhuan bronze medal that Duke Zheng had given to the natives of North America has been discovered locally by later generations. I will not list them one by one here. This period of history will not be buried forever. The illustrious achievements of Zheng Gong and the officers and soldiers of the Ming fleet will be revealed by the sky and the sun and the moon. There will be a day when the truth will be revealed to the world and will be remembered by the descendants of China. Future generations of Chinese descendants will surely be able to rectify the origins and restore the historical truth to comfort our ancestors and warn future generations. I didn't expect that future generations would still remember it. Zheng he saluted Xiaoping'an, looked at the empty hall in front of him, and asked, "Brothers, have you heard this? The descendants of China have not forgotten our voyages to the west. Thanks to our credit, some people still remember what we have done, and this comprehensive map of Kunyu and 10,000 kingdoms is the best proof." As soon as Zheng he opened his mouth, streaks of light and shadow suddenly appeared in the originally empty palace. In just the blink of an eye, 20 to 30,000 people appeared in the hall, crowding the hall. The people were all wearing Ming Dynasty costumes of various colors, some were wearing swords and firearms, and some were holding various tools. Xiaoping'an looked over and saw among the light and shadow of the 2 to 30,000 people, there were the officers' school of the Ming Dynasty fleet, flag troops, warriors, sailors, fire chiefs, civilians, helmsmen, squadrons, generals, etc. worker, scribe, yin and yang official, healer, anchor, wooden pile, building materials, etc. Everyone from the Ming Dynasty fleet who accompanied Zheng he on his 7 voyages to the west came. "Mr. Zheng, this young man can do it? If the brothers think he can pass this level, let's give him a ride." In the light and shadow, a thick-looking sailor with a dark face said directly, and then the other lights and shadows nodded. Zheng he nodded, and with a wave of his hand, the stone wall in the main hall and the comprehensive map of Kunyu and all nations disappeared. At the position of the disappeared stone wall, a space passage exuding 5 colors of brilliance slowly appearing in front of Xiaopinggan. Behind the passage was a vast sea in the void and a port. A majestic fleet with more than 400 ships was stationed at the port. Among the fleet, the most eye-catching ones are several treasure ships. The treasure ship is the largest ship in the fleet. The treasure ship is 44 feet long and 18 feet wide. It has 9 masts and 12 sails. The masts are towering into the clouds. Above is a 4-story palace-style building, which is exquisite and luxurious, like a palace on the sea. Get on the boat, brothers have decided to sail the boat to escort you and take you through the sea of chaos in the void. Zheng He said to Xiaopinggan. Thank you, Xiaopinggan did not refuse. After thanking him, he and Zheng He walked directly into the space passage and boarded the largest treasure ship. After a short period of preparation, as Zheng He said with the order, the treasure ship issued a flag order, and with the long sound of the horn, the entire fleet set off, sailed out of the port, rode the wind and waves, and entered the Sea of Chaos. Note 1. Dr. Li Zheiliang's decryption of the complete map of Kunyu and all nations and Suant gold medal revelation. Other reference materials involved include 1421, China discovered the world by Menzies, commander of the British Royal Navy submarine fleet, and Yale. The research results of Paul, a doctor of architecture from the university, on the Cape Breton Island Canal.